Cody and AEW have parted ways. But how could Cody do this during Black History Month of all months? Such a historic month. But considering that Cody actually ended racism a number of months ago, it all lines up. Cody has nothing else left to do in AEW, so where will he go next? What will he do? Where did he come from? Where did he go? Where did he come from? Cotton Eye Code. Anyway, let's find out what Cody's going to do next. The sky is no longer falling. Onward and upwards. Victory! And also, the question of where Brandi will land next. But let's talk about that stuff. I'm John Redland with my real honest thoughts on Cody Rhodes and Brandi Rhodes leaving AEW, what this means for both of them, what this means for AEW, and also Austin versus Kevin Owens at Mania 38, and on one of the two nights in Dallas, Texas, the most stupendous two-night premium live event in WWE history until the next one, and then the next one after that, and next one after that. It's been interesting, not even 24 hours for wrestling Twitter and wrestling news and stuff like that. There's been various people that have tweeted out about this. Fightful, Sean Ross Sapp, broke the news a number of weeks ago that Cody was not, or Cody was working without an AEW contract. And we were thinking, well, that's a bit bizarre because he was either going to become the TNT champion or had just become the TNT. I forget the exact timeline because a lot of this stuff just, conglomerates human centipedes together and we just get all confused and then we get fed a whole lot of shit. And sometimes it's hard to filter the fact through the fiction when it comes to wrestling news. But Cody had been working without an AEW contract. And he won the TNT championship and then was off TV for a bit and then put Sammy over in the big ladder match when they did all the crazy stuff. And that apparently was Cody's last match. The first match he had on Dynamite was against Sammy, and the last match that he had on AEW Dynamite was against Sammy. So, okay, at least that was a nice bookended story. Also, there's a lot of things that are up in the air. There are some people that believe that this could be a work, an elaborate work and everything, and Cody could come back, in a number of months and whatever, but why would AEW release a statement? It's a whole bunch of stuff. I want to know your thoughts in the comments, please. Honestly, it's just very, very strange. So, the statement from AEW's Twitter, aka the head of creative, Tony Khan, which might, make a whole lot of sense as to why it was not written the best. Cody and Brandi Rhodes were integral to the launch of AEW. Cody's ability, combined with his boldness and passion for our industry and his love for community outreach, helped AEW deliver on our mission to give fans what they needed for far too long. Something new, innovative, and lasting. And I can agree with that, given some of the stuff that's gone on in AEW. Not everything, but some of the stuff. Brandi helped us shape the AEW story, and I appreciate how hard she fought for us, both in and out of the ring, competing in the women's division while advancing our efforts at inclusion and civic causes. Like all the LGBTQ people that they featured so goddamn well on programming. Including great partnerships with Culture City and the American Heart Association. I have immense respect and appreciation for Cody and Brandi and wish them both the best as they move on from AEW. Thank you, Cody and Brandi, Khan, head of creative and all those kind of stuff, CEO, all that. That's from Tony Khan. Cody released a statement that I'm not going to read in full, but he was thanking people and everything, and Brody Lee's wife, all that stuff. He thanked people, putting over AEW as a company, the talents. How the neck tattoo wasn't a bad idea. January 6th wasn't that bad. Oh, I'm sorry. That was other stuff. The neck tattoo was a terrible idea, by the way. So, there were rumors and, stuff bubbling up and everything and dirt sheets and whatever that the EVPs hadn't gotten along for quite a while. Yeah, Cody, the Bucks, Omega, and then you got Khan as the head of everything. And I don't think Jericho's an EVP, but Jericho is the influencer and everything, so he might as well be an EVP. So, the question that the many questions that we have is what led to this. Cody did leave WWE shortly after Mania 32. He was tired of being Stardust. Who could really fucking blame him? And he went out and carved his own path in wrestling by working the Indies, working Ring of Honor, working New Japan, stuff like that, and latching onto the Elite. He found something hot and latched himself onto it. That was smart. I can't fault Cody for that. But also, Cody was the type of guy that always felt like the outsider. And no, I'm not talking about Hall or Nash. I'm not talking about that. He always felt like the outsider of the EVPs. And apparently, rumors. I don't know how true this stuff is. But where there's smoke, there's fire. One of them is leaving. Like, if you would have thought that Cody would have been the first one to leave, Honestly, I would have thought Jericho would have been the first person to leave because, let's be honest, Jericho is getting a little bit long in the tooth and huge in the gut and can't really do anything in the ring anymore because he's drinking way too much of the bubbly. And also his wife and mother-in-law still have something to answer for being part of the January 6th insurrection attempt. But that's another story for another day. Cody. What does this mean for Cody and Brandi? It can mean a few things. They got the Go Big Show and Road to the Top and stuff like that. Now, the whole Road to the Top thing is up in the air. Who the hell knows if that show's actually going to happen? He is in with some of the Turner Network execs. He has the Go Big Show on TBS. And he has expressed a desire to move on from wrestling. He's in his mid to later 30s, I believe. And, he did a whole bunch of other stuff. He did a whole bunch of stuff in AEW. He had that great match with, Blood and Carnage and great wrestling, great storytelling with Dustin at Double or Nothing 2019. And he had Cody's in-ring run in AEW has been all bad. The big thing is Cody got to the point where he was getting booed a whole lot because he was taking time away. He was giving this big lavish entrance, this ego-stroking entrance, because Cody has an ego, regardless of whether, all wrestlers have egos, or at least the vast majority of them do. Cody's problem is he's never going to even be as good as Dustin was, and Dustin was never a world champion. And Dustin probably should have been a world champion before Cody was ever considered to be a world champion. The whole deal is Cody and Brandi now, they're gone. They're out of AEW. Unless this is an elaborate work. It could be an elaborate work. They could be back in 3 to 6 months. They could just want to go off and do some stuff and do some other things. And his whole statement could just be that. Is it entirely possible? I don't know if it's going to end up being a work, but if it is, oh, well, that's certainly going to be interesting. It's also going to kind of torpedo the credibility of AEW as far as any official statements they put out. But this also could be that Cody just got tired of being booed out of the goddamn building, and Brandi got tired of being a goddamn punching bag and a punchline. So let's be perfectly honest. The one good thing out of this is that maybe we will not have to see Brandi ever in a wrestling ring again, because she wasn't any fucking good before. Before her injury, after her injury, and, before her pregnancy, and after her pregnancy. It's tough for women to come back from that stuff. But if this means it ain't open mic night, bitch, and she doesn't go from being Meryl Streep to Butch Reed, and if you know, you know, and this means she never has to talk on a goddamn, wrestling television show again, I'm all for it. Brandi Rhodes is a blight as far as a wrestling character to any wrestling promotion. She's not any good. She thinks that she's Stephanie McMahon, when, even though I don't care for Stephanie McMahon, Stephanie, at least, has the bloodlines as far as wrestling. Now, she still didn't deserve the TV time that she continued to get. But Brandi would not be where she is in wrestling if she wasn't married to Cody. Flip-flop that. If Brandi was a big star and Cody was the one riding her coattails as it were, say the same thing. Brandi also is not any good in the ring. She does the worst STF this side of Eric Watts or John Cena, but at least they were athletes. I will say that I am glad that Cody and Brandi left, if for nothing more so we don't have to come up with the idea of possibly seeing Brandi beat Jade for the TBS Championship or face Paige Van Zandt. That's another thing. All this stuff with Dan Lambert, the sheepish lion Dan Lambert, knocking Cody, he then focused on Brandi. They've had these interactions. They had a recent interaction where Paige Van Zandt and Brandi brawled. So unless we're going to get a blow-off at Revolution, unless this is all a work and we're just going to get a blow-off at Revolution, they're going to go full-on dickish heel, that just kind of was Paige Van Zandt do. I mean, she could still wrestle. There are plenty of people for her to work with. Her versus Thunder Rosa would be fucking tremendous. But this kind of just makes you think, like, what was the end game here? Like, did Cody want way more money? Because Cody wasn't worth Bryan Danielson money, Punk money, Jon Moxley money, whatever it is. He wasn't worth that. He's worth Jericho money because I think Cody, as far as a contributor, can actually do better things for AEW than Jericho. Because Jericho's best days were about 2010, if we're being honest, outside of the one match he had against Kenny Omega at Wrestle Kingdom 12. I mean, that was a one-time thing, and then all his other New Japan appearances were the Law of Diminishing Returns. But what does this all mean? There are rumors, even floating around right now as I'm recording this, and who knows, it could end up becoming official right here, that that he's truly gone, and WWE makes a huge offer to him, and he goes there. Okay, unless he can, have a level of creative control and have a level of, he's going to get a ton of money and do what he's going to do, then he's going to be right back in the mid-card, maybe upper mid-card. He might get a few main event runs, and then he'll be, and he won't win the championship. He'll win the Intercontinental or the U.S. Championship, and that'll be it. He's surely gone. He goes into politics. He's expressed a desire to run for Congress, and we know how he feels about January 6th and a whole bunch of other stuff, so would I be surprised for him to just leave wrestling behind, go into politics? Not really. He didn't think that he was going to wrestle to age 40, or at least wrestle past age 40, so if he wants to get out now and he's got the money, fine. He's taking time off, but we'll do the TV shows, the Go Big Show and Roads to the Top, if they decide to do Roads to the Top. It's going to be pretty awkward for them to do Roads to the Top, considering by the time they could film any more of that shit, he's been out of AEW, unless they've been filming this. And it's a work, and he'll be back in a few months. And just all this stuff is up in the air, and it's just really, really bizarre that they decided to do. It's just strange. It's just very, very fucking strange that this would happen. And does it, bring into question the structure of AEW? Like AEW not being able to have people get along and everything. Because Hikaru Shida has spoken out, much like Big Swole did. People attack Big Swole, and I talked about that in a previous video. Talked about that as far as, getting the women more opportunities and stuff like that. And some AEW originals feeling like they kind of got pushed to the side with the bigger signings. Swole, in Shida's words, Swole she was gracious towards the company, but she had questions and she had complaints and stuff she wanted to air. Same with Shida. And I think we need to see both of those and realize that there's going to be more stories coming out about this as time goes on. Am I saying that, AEW is going downhill? No. AEW is making money. Cody was a part of it. He was a big deal. And at first, he was a pretty big star for them. And then he became a detriment. It was hilarious to see the crowd reactions that he got. The boos and all that stuff and everything. But Brandi, it was like, we don't want to see you. She killed the fucking ratings. Her and Dan Lambert, the sheepish lion Dan Lambert, killed the goddamn ratings of the most recent show that they were on. It just freaking bottomed out. Because nobody wants to see Brandi pretend to be something she's not, which is a television performer on a wrestling show. But back to the Swole Shida stuff. I think that as more contracts end, we'll find out, there's some people like, hey, I got paid well, this kind of stuff, but I sat on the sidelines a lot, because AEW's gobbling up a whole bunch of people. They're going to have to structure themselves, because even though their pay-per-views are making money, even though Dynamite, their ratings, maybe get up to 1 million, 1.2 million at the most, TV habits have changed, other stuff has changed, to the point where we're not going to get Monday Night War ratings. We're not even going to get ratings that we got in 2010. They're barely getting the ratings that TNA got in 2009 on Spike TV. And TBS and TNT, I believe, are in more homes than Spike TV ever. And I think Spike TV was in like 90 million homes or something like that. But the whole point is TBS, TNT, big Turner Network, backing and everything. Even though AOL, Time Warner, all that stuff. And, Ted Turner, I don't even think could spell TBS or TNT if you spot him a couple letters because he's old. The whole point is AEW needs to structure themselves, figure out the people they want to push, feature them right, and just go forward and hopefully do some better things. One thing they need to do, and this is going to get away from Cody, if Cody and Brandi want to go to AEW, or go to AEW, they want to go to AEW, they just want to do a 360 and go back. No, they want to go to WWE. Miz and Maurice versus Cody and Brandi at Mania almost seems like a lock. Dear God, it's going to be a lock. Thanks, I hate it. Maybe get Ray and his wife Angie to be part of it. That could be something. But it also could be he just wants to get out of wrestling. He may go to WWE, do a year, get some big money, and leave. I mean, as long as they don't make him Stardust, because Stardust is fucking shit, I don't know where the fuck they're going to go with this goddamn thing. It's really, really bizarre that this comes out. Yes, the story again broke a number of weeks ago that Cody was working without a contract. But just suddenly to announce this the day before, a Dynamite that is going to, make one of the final pushes towards Revolution. They got a pay-per-view coming up here in a bit. And Cody's just suddenly off of that. I mean, I don't know if he's ever going to be on that anyway. Is anybody going to miss Cody in the ring in AEW? I mean, I didn't really care. Yes, the stuff he did with Sammy in that ladder match was impressive. He set himself on fire. He bled like crazy. He did all this stuff, and the fans kept booing him because they were sick of him. It's not that they didn't respect the guy. They just didn't care for the character. Personally, I don't want to see either of them on a wrestling program again because they both annoy me greatly, and I think that they're a detriment to any wrestling company now, while they were a positive in the beginning. Brandi likes to stroke her own ego. Cody has the ego-stroking ego. And hey, NXT's tonight. It's entirely possible Dusty Classic Finals. Cody could just suddenly show up to congratulate them. Because if he don't got any non-compete, and I don't believe he does, there you go. So, who knows what is going to happen. Cody could end up signing by the time this video goes up because everything's just all crazy and whatever. And if Cody signs, I hope he gets a ton of money. I hope he can do that. And I hope his daughter's unhappy with him, being being on the road more. He can just say, cry more, Lib. That's why he named his daughter Liberty, because Cody's a bit of a dick like that. So yeah, it's very, very bizarre. Now let's talk about Owens versus Austin. Very, very quickly. Very, very quickly. I do not want to see a 57-year-old Stone Cold Steve Austin wrestling in Dallas, Texas, even if it's going to be safe. Austin had spinal stenosis. He had major neck issues that contributed to him leaving at Mania 2003. And that's 19 fucking years ago. He needed to walk away. And I was in Seattle. I was unfortunately unable to see that. I mean, I wish I could have seen it live, but it is what it is. I told that story before. I'm not going to tell it here. Owens is safe enough to where he would lead, not that you would need to lead, a legend like Austin, but since Austin hasn't been competitive in the ring, outside of doing a few stunners and stuff like that, he hasn't taken bumps, for years and years. He hasn't taken bumps, as it were. Boy, if anybody remembers that song, I will be amazed. But Owens can be the type of guy to work safely with Austin, and it could be a short match. It could be battle of the stunners and stuff like that. And naturally, Austin would be the one to go over, and I'm sure Owens would be fucking thrilled to work with Austin. The question is why now? They didn't have him versus Punk when Austin was about 10 years younger, or at least 9 years younger, and they could have done something. They didn't do that. They didn't, it might have even been 10 years. The whole point is, they could have had Austin back then. And they didn't want to back the Brinks truck up then. Now they do, because they're flush with cash, the Saudi deal and everything and all that. They got all the TV deals. They got all this money. They're printing money. Despite the fact that the goddamn ratings are in the fucking toilet and will never come back. Austin wrestling now, if he wants to do it, he can do it. I'm just saying that if I'm going to knock the fact that Goldberg's still wrestling, I'm going to knock the fact that Bork, even though he is having fun, is still wrestling. And various others, and you got 62-year-old Sting in AEW, and even though he's taking about he really shouldn't be, dear God, he did a splash onto a table where he barely fucking made it because he's 62 with spinal stenosis and a bad neck. This is another indication that Vince McMahon, yes, he's going back to what he knows, but if this does end up happening, it's pretty much a lock. All it's an indication is that, hey, any of the full-time people, just slapping them right across the goddamn face. That's basically it. And that's not a knock on Austin. I totally get it. I totally get why they're doing it, but it's stupid because, yes, they had the most stupendous 2-night premium live event in WWE history. And yeah, they got to try and fill Dallas Cowboys Stadium or wherever the fuck, the AT&T Stadium, I think is what it's called, whatever. That probably explains why no signal ever comes out of that. No proper working signal. Har, har. But this is not exactly something that's going to light the world on fire. Yes, it'll be cool to hear the glass shattering. It'll be cool because it'll bring back the nostalgia. The nostalgia vein you can only tap into so much before there's nothing left. And WWE is about tapped out of that. AEW, same thing. You can only tap into nostalgia so goddamn much. And that's another video I may do at another point. But there you go. That's pretty much it. So to summarize, Austin versus Owens. Cool. 57-year-old Austin in a ring that hasn't been competitive in 19 years. Not necessarily sold on it. WWE can back up the Brinks truck and bring in Cody and Brandi, and it could be absolutely nothing. Or you can just leave Brandi at home, and you can just have Cody in the goddamn ring, because at least Cody can work. And then it could end up being goddamn really fucking awkward, given all the shit that he said about them, in the last almost 6 years. I think it was more like 5.5, but still. He had justification for saying some of it because they could have used him better, but in all honesty, would he have ever been WWE Champion? Probably not. Is he going to be WWE Champion this time around? No. Fuck no. But that's really it. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm Charles Wetland. I'll see you soon.